Welcome to Vulnerable Relationships.
I'm a 30-year-old female, and my boyfriend is 34 male. We have been together for the last 4 years. Our first date was our whole life stories and just talking about everything and anything, whether it was deep or not. I'd say most of our relationship has been this way. Even when we fight, which has maybe happened a couple of times, we'll take a break and regroup once emotions settle. When we disagree, we talk it through. He looks at me like I'm the most beautiful person he's ever seen. He constantly tells me how lucky he is to have me and how I deserve the world. We both love to cook and clean for the other person, so we always have different games set up, and the loser gets to relax while the winner gets to pamper the loser. I know it sounds weird, but it works for us. I love this man so much, and I know he loves me just as much. Now here's the problem. A couple of months into dating, kids got brought up. Communication is super important to us, so I told him I didn't want kids. He thought I was joking because all my friends and siblings have kids at this point, and I'm the fun auntie. I even put together parties for the kids on fun-themed days when I'm having one-on-one time with them. I do love kids, but I don't want any of my own. I explained that, and he said, well, maybe you haven't met the right guy. I had to sit him down and explain that while I do believe people can change, he cannot be with me expecting my opinion about kids to change. He needs to take my not wanting kids at face value, instead of hoping that I will change my mind. Because what if I don't change my mind? I asked him to think it through for a week or two, and then we can circle back to the topic because at this point we are thinking about making it official. But if kids were that important to him, then we needed to stop now before it got much harder down the line. He told me later that kids are not that important to him, and that he can see a future without kids in it. Fast forward to a month ago. His parents and some extended family were visiting for my boyfriend's brother's wedding. We are in the US, and his family is from Eastern Europe. I've always got along well with his parents and brother, plus his brother's now wife. His parents will visit a couple of times a year and have always been so kind and thoughtful. At the wedding reception, I was kind of introduced to all the family. Eventually, someone asked when my boyfriend and I were getting married, and my boyfriend just winked at the question because he knew I already knew that he was planning to propose soon. He just asked way too many ring-related questions since he knows I hate diamonds but wasn't sure which direction he should go in since I barely wear rings. He could propose to me with a ring pop for all that I care. Later in the evening, one of his cousins asked how I would feel about my future kid learning their native language, to which I responded, oh, I don't want kids but I'm learning the language myself. There were a few members of the family around including my boyfriend's parents. My boyfriend was away from the group at this time, and they all gave me the "what the hell are you saying" look. I didn't understand why I was getting that look, so I just awkwardly laughed and asked everyone not to tell my boyfriend I was learning the language because I wanted to surprise him. I thought it would be cute to respond to his proposal in his native language. I went looking for my boyfriend and found his brother and the bride instead. We were talking and eventually, I asked, hey, is it weird in your culture to not have kids? 'Cause I got weird looks from your parents when I said I don't want kids. His brother proceeded to tell me that it was not weird but that my boyfriend has always wanted to have kids, so it probably shocked their parents to hear that I didn't want kids. My boyfriend always wanted at least 3 kids and he had always been super excited about the idea of having kids. I think his brother noticed the look on my face and backtracked a bit, saying something like, wait, fuck, it's not a big deal. He changed his mind because he loves you more than the idea of having kids. On the ride back home with my boyfriend, I asked him if he was okay with not having kids. He sighed because he had heard from his parents about what I said. He apologized about it and said that he did stop talking about kids since we've been together, but that his parents always assumed we would have kids. He also sometimes wonders if I will change my mind, but he doesn't think I ever will. He said that when we talked about this while we were dating, he could imagine a future without kids because he couldn't imagine a future without me. It's been a month since the wedding, but I've started to notice little things with my boyfriend. A lot of our friends have kids and I'm always letting my friends know they can bring their kids over instead of having to find a babysitter. I've noticed that my boyfriend looks slightly envious when he sees our friends interact with their kids, or sometimes I see him look slightly dejected when he sees a family with a bunch of kids. Maybe this is in my head now that I know he's always wanted to be a dad until he met me. Maybe it's not in my head. I truly want him to be happy, but I don't want to be a mom. I wish I felt different and I wish I could compromise this for him, but I would never want to bring kids into the world knowing I don't want them. That's not fair to the kid, and if his being happy means he finds someone else to have kids with, then I will have to live with that. He knows something is wrong cause he said I feel far away lately. I think he knows why. I know I have to sit down with him and fully talk this out. Part of me feels like this conversation will lead us to a breakup because he truly does want kids. I'm also worried that if he stays with me, he might resent me for not wanting kids like him. I just feel terrible.
Comments.
Comment 1. The kid/no kid issue is very real and can cause incompatibility. I think you need to press your boyfriend on this issue. Maybe take a 2 to 3 week break from him so he can experience life without you to judge for himself if he should stay with you or move on and find someone who wants children. In the end, though, you can only listen to his words. Watch his actions and probe his emotions after he sees other children or families. If he reassures you and you still have doubts, then a breakup may be the best option. Oprah replies. Yeah, that is the plan. I've just been trying to gather my thoughts about everything so that I'm thinking with my head and not my heart. Comment 2. I've been in the same situation as you. Don't want kids. Never have. I had to end a past relationship for that very reason. I thought maybe I could do it for her, but in the end, I couldn't. It's just a responsibility I never wanted to have. It's a hard decision to make, but it is the right one if you're not on the same page. There is no compromise in the kids/no kids scenario. Hope things work out for you too, but don't commit to something you don't want. You'll only regret it. Oprah replies. I agree, there is no compromise. There is no concern over him pressuring me or me changing my mind for him. The idea of being pregnant has always been unsettling to me, so he knows that I do plan on getting surgery eventually. Right now my doctor says that I'm too young to make the decision. I thought the kids thing was settled, but he never talked about how important kids previously were to him, and we just don't talk about kids in our future talks. But after the wedding, I'm just noticing slight things with him and I don't want him to live in regret. My concern is for him above all else. Comment 3. Talk to him about you being scared he'll resent you. He decided to give up on having kids because he loves you more than the idea of a life with kids. Why don't you believe him? Oprah replies. That's the plan, to talk to him, but I needed an outlet and hopefully advice about how to properly have this conversation so that I don't feel like he is setting aside his happiness for me. What I do believe is that he loves me more than life itself and that he would jump in front of a bullet for me without a second thought. So I also believe that he would compromise something that he has always wanted just to make me happy, which can lead to resentment and regret later down the line. He always puts me first and will sometimes forget to think of himself, which is where I come in because I am always trying to think about him. This is why I'm concerned about talking to him regarding kids, because depending on his responses and body language, I might have to let him go so that he can actually be happy in the long term and not just in the short term. If that makes sense. Update. 2 days after my original post, my boyfriend and I sat down to talk finally. As I suspected, he knew exactly what had been bugging me, but he didn't want to push me to have the conversation before I was ready. He started with why he's okay with not having kids. He grew up with his parents and brother. He saw the joy that his parents got from raising the two of them, but he also saw how unhappy they were in their marriage. Yes, they are still together, but they are more like co-parents and roommates than that actual couple. My boyfriend was very cynical when it came to relationships growing up because he felt like he never saw enough happy couples. His parents weren't happy. His friends were in and out of relationships. He was in and out of relationships. In his head, kids would bring him and his partner happiness and purpose in a relationship. Yes, he admitted to the absolute insanity of this way of thinking, but when we started dating he realized this and started going to therapy to help him work these feelings out. He's been in therapy ever since. He said that when he met me, I changed everything for him and that he knew on our second date that he was going to marry me. So when months later I mentioned I didn't want kids, he was disappointed, but the main reason was because the idea of having little versions of me running around was something he had thought about for the months we were dating. And yes, he meant it when he said that he could see a future without kids but couldn't see a future without me. It's why he had been super supportive of me looking into surgeries to prevent kids from being a possibility for me. It's why he never even brings up the possibility of either one of us changing our minds. I asked if he was jealous of our friends with kids and he laughed. He said that when he sees a family or sees our friends with their kids, he can see that the relationship between a parent and child is special, but the freedom that we have in our relationship along with the extra funds we have for ourselves far outweigh his past feelings about being a dad. He said that I was his family and if I didn't want to increase the size of our family then he has no problems with that because he's already so happy. He finally found the love of his life, which he never thought would happen, so he doesn't want to mess with something perfect. He just never brought it up with his family and was slightly concerned that they would try to pressure us. Kids are a big thing in his family. His brother already knew and had no problems with it. He said he talked with his parents and the relatives he was closest to about it. His parents are not exactly happy, but my boyfriend admitted to me that he lied to them and said he was the one who didn't want kids first. Just wasn't sure what their reaction would be and didn't want me to deal with any negative backlash. He said if I ever feel pressured about anything, whether it be by him or his family or even my family, to let him know because we are partners and we work through these things together. He isn't afraid to go no contact with anyone who makes a big deal about something that isn't any of their business. I told him that my main concern was that he was putting my happiness over his because he tends to do that with people he loves. I didn't want him to regret anything later down the line. He said he understood my concern but that he swore up and down that these 4 years have been the happiest of his life. The fact that I was so stressed about whether he was happy or not is further proof that we are meant for each other because I also tend to put his happiness over my own. LOL. He then proposed to me with the original ring he bought the first year we were together. I didn't even know he had bought a ring before. He said he would have done it that first year, but I had made a comment that I wanted to wait at least 3 years before getting engaged. And now he is making significantly more money, so he's been looking to go all out on a new ring. But I love the ring he originally bought. It isn't big or flashy but is a very unique design that is subtle and beautiful. The color is also the same as my boyfriend's eyes. And I'm always gushing about them. He has the kindest eyes. So I told him there was no point in looking for another ring because this one was already perfect. Thanks to everyone who reached out and for all the advice. This community really helped.
Thanks for watching the video. Please consider leaving a like and subscribing. See you in the next video.